Alright, this is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, we're going to show you guys how these hopper-style juicers, including the Kuvings Auto10 with 3-liter hopper and the Nama J2 with the optional upgrade of the 3-liter hopper, handles baby leafy greens. Today we have 2 pounds, 1 pound here, 1 pound here, of the Power Greens mix that we're just going to put into the juicer and let the juicer rip. And hopefully with its automatic hopper, it'll feed in the produce, it'll drop down those greens, and it'll get them juiced. We will also be timing this for you guys so you can learn how long it takes. So if you guys don't know who I am, my name is John Kohler, and I started the website DiscountJuicers.com back in 1998. Hello, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com over 25 years ago to get you guys the lowest price on the juicers, as well as to educate customer about the different juicers and compare them. And I now do that on YouTube. So I'm still living up to my business name and making sure you guys get the lowest price on the juicers out there. And we're going to share some coupon codes with you. If you guys want to save 10% off on the Kuvings Auto10, you could use the coupon code DJ10 at KuvingsUSA.com. I'll put a link down below in the description. It'll save you guys 10% off the Kuvings Auto10 juicer. If you guys want to save 10% off on the Nama J2, make sure you guys use the coupon code BABY10 at namawell.com. That'll save you guys 10% off the Nama J2 juicer. Now, when you guys use those coupon codes, not only will you save 10% off, but also Nama or Kuvings will share me a small commission so I can continue to make these educational videos for you guys where I pit the machines head to head and showing you guys exactly what happens in each juicer. Of course, I also have expert juicer unboxings where I review the machines as well as drop my juicer knowledge bombs on you. So I appreciate you guys when you guys do use that coupon code if I've helped you out to select the right juicer, because nobody goes to the depths that I do to share the juicing knowledge and basically pull back the smoke screen from all the marketing fluff that is out there. Next up, I want to say while I am juicing the leafy greens today in vertical hopper style juicers, I'll be the first one to tell you that the hopper style juicers are not my first choice for juicing straight leafy greens such as this. You know, I would rather use a single horizontal auger style machine, my favorite of which is the Santa 727 at this time. Link down below to my video on how I juice greens, like cannabis greens, in the Santa 727. You know, the horizontal style machines are best for juicing straight leafy greens, especially when they're baby, especially when they contain lots of spinach like these mixes do, because the spinach contains saponins, which can cause excess foam, you know, which is dependent on the juicer design. So the horizontal augers are definitely better for the greens. That being said, in horizontal augers, you got to put a handful in and then you got to push it in. And, you know, in this day and age, nobody wants to push the produce in. That being said, you know, the downside of these machines is that they will create more foam when juicing the leafy greens, but it should be less work in terms of the actual juicing, although cleaning the machine will take about twice as long as cleaning a Santa 727. That takes me about a minute and a half. The next thing I want to mention is that if you are going to juice leafy greens such as these with other vegetables and fruits, you know, this machine will work great. You want to make sure you put a good percentage of the greens, but also at least as equally as much of other root vegetables. So think something like carrots or think beets. You could also juice celery or even just cut up pieces of apple. Or one of my favorite root vegetables is jicama. If you, you know, mix in at least 50% of the roots plus some of the fruits and the greens, the machine's going to work a lot better. So you're going to load up a little greens, little roots, greens, roots, and just alternate, you know, loading up this hopper. So, you know, literally today I'm doing a torture test comparison between these two machines. And to remind you, if you haven't seen my other videos, when I originally compared these two machines, the yields were basically similar. And I call the juice off a tie, which is actually extremely rare. Link down below to that video. Of course, on my next video, I did a torture test where I did a whole pineapple, showing that neither machine was successful at juicing a whole pineapple, although once I cut it up into pieces, then each machine actually made the same exact yield. The final test in that video was I juiced straight ginger, which I do not recommend doing without pre-cutting. And in that test, I showed the NAMA J2 stop once, but then powered through it, whereas the Auto10 could not complete that process. So once again, link down below if you guys want to review that video. And of course, my last video on the J2 and Auto10, I compare them with a 3-liter hopper. Link down below to that video where I'm doing a more normal recipe. And in that video, the NAMA J2 inched out the Kuvings Auto10 just by literally a hair, you know. So in this test, we're just gonna test straight greens alone, and we're not gonna pack the hoppers full. We're probably gonna put them about halfway, loose fluff it, so that way the processing blade could kind of agitate things and hopefully work in to the machine. And we're gonna run the process concurrently while I actually run a stopwatch so you can see how long it takes. All right, so let's go ahead and rip the top off. Now, I did weigh these before I made this video, and before this video, they were weighing exactly even, including the box, which I would figure is the same exact weight. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and open each of the tops, and we're gonna take several handfuls of the greens. All right, there's one handful. All right, we got 3 handfuls in the Kuvings Auto10. That was maybe almost half of the greens that was in the little box there. We're gonna shut the lid. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and load up the J2. Once again, 3 nice handfuls. All right, 3 handfuls in the NAMA J2. We're gonna go ahead and shut that lid. We're gonna go ahead and hit the start button. And we're gonna turn each machine on. All right, so what I think I'll do is we're gonna go ahead and fast forward and speed up this video for you guys to save you guys some time, to see if these machines process the greens without using the tamper or doing anything else. I can see that the NAMA J2 is finally getting some green juice out slowly but surely, and so is the Auto10. As the levels go down, I think I'll go ahead and feed a little bit of the greens into the little chute through the hole in the top. We're gonna go ahead and speed this part of the video up for you guys to save you guys some time. Come back at you when I'm all done. Alright guys, I wanted to stop it right there pretty much because I wanted to let you know that the Kuvings Auto10 has already worked through all the greens. I found it easier to put things into the Auto10 because the funnel is a lot wider, so it didn't tend to fall off as easily. It looked like the Kuvings pretty much juiced everything with a few things left in the hopper. It took about 5.5 minutes, so we're just going to go ahead and flick the things down that are stuck on the processing blade, and we're just going to go ahead and drop that in to a little hole to see if we can get that to juice. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and let the NAMA J2 finish on up. You know, here's my assessment at present time is that because the Auto10 hopper is basically a tube, like straight up and down, you know, the gravity took those lighter leaves and it was easy to drop in and then get them agitated and get them pushed into the juicer. Meanwhile, you guys can see the NAMA J2 hopper as a funnel shape, right? Kind of small at the bottom and kind of curves up to be bigger, right? While this hopper style in my testing works great for things that have some weight to them, like pieces of carrots, pieces of beets, cut up pieces of celery, pieces of apples, and pieces of other fruits. The challenge is that when it's lighter, it doesn't drop down quite as efficiently or easily in the NAMA J2 to actually get juiced. So in this case, I could definitely say that the Kuvings Auto10 beat the NAMA J2 in sheer time and how long it took. Let's go ahead and let the NAMA J2 continue to run so that we could check the results at the end. Alright, as you guys can see, the NAMA J2 is just about done. We're approximately at 8 minutes and 15 seconds, so that took several minutes longer than the Kuvings Auto10. And in the NAMA J2 hopper, there's a few leaves that are stuck to the sidewall that we're going to push down. In addition, there are also leaves stuck on the processing blade that I'm going to dislodge so we could get those juiced as well. So it looks like we're all done juicing in the NAMA J2. Let's go ahead and turn this machine off. And on both machines, there's still lots of green residue. Once again, greens have, about a cup of juice per pound, but they're not the most watery things. Think like watermelon. You squeeze it with your hand, the juice comes out. Not going to squeeze greens, get the juice out. So, always when juicing greens, it's really good to juice something like celery or even cucumbers that'll help flush all the dense green juice out of the machine. So because we did not, we're just going to go ahead and tip this machine up, see if we get any final drips. And a lot of the juice has been aerated due to the design of the machine. And what would happen is if you juiced other things like cucumbers and celery with your greens, there'd be a lot less foam because the celery and greens would take space up between the auger, so it wouldn't inject as much air into the juice as it's being created. That's why I recommend using a horizontal auger juicer that has just less space in the get-go in the processing blade between the auger and the juicing screen. So generally there's just less foam created in the first place, plus it runs at a lower RPM. So let's go ahead and tip up the NAMA J2, get any last drips of juice out. All right, shut our spout cap. And now let's go ahead and bring these juices front and center for you guys to see how much juice each juicer made. All right, let's go ahead and do a close-up on the juices. As you guys can see, this is a tight race and it looks pretty doggone close to me. If I had to say, if you guys look, you can see maybe the NAMA J2 made about 250 milliliters of juice. And then if we go over to the Auto10, it's just under 250, so maybe like 240. But the issue is we got a few different layering levels in the Kuvings Auto10, so we can't really give us a true approximation. And if we look at the foam, you guys can see the foam looks to be a little more dense in the Kuvings Auto10, and the foam on the NAMA J2 looks to be a lot more coarse, like bigger bubbles, and more of it. So what I will say is that, in this case, I would believe the Kuvings Auto10 made a higher quality juice because it actually injected less air into the juice. That being said, the NAMA J2 maybe made a bit more yield. So we're going to do further testing and I'll show you guys how to remove the air bubbles out of the juice and get more accurate juice yield. All right, so now I'm going to show you guys actually how to de-aerate your juice. You will basically need a vacuum vessel, sorry. That's a joke. All right, so what I'm using today as my vacuum vessel is a Blendtec blender jar along with my favorite vacuum lid. This is the Void Systems vacuum lid that can turn any Blendtec blender instantly into a vacuum blender, and you could also use this to de-aerate your juices. Of course, you could also use a pump and a mason jar like I've shown in my How to Store Your Juice for up to 7 days video down below. I like this because when you're blowing off the foam, generally it'll rise up a lot, so I want to have a lot of headspace. Plus, this vacuum pump on this special Void lid that hopefully should be out later this year pulls more vacuum than other methods of pulling a vacuum. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of spin this around, and as you guys can see, just spinning this around, we've already helped to dissolve a lot of the dissolved oxygen, but there's still oxygen in our juice. So we're just going to go ahead and pour all that in and let it drip down for a few seconds. So you can see we got pretty much all the juice out of there. Now we're just going to go ahead and put the lid on, and we're going to hit the go button, and what's going to happen is dual pumps come on inside this lid that basically evacuate all the excess oxygen out of the headspace, but also because it is a strong vacuum, will pull the dissolved oxygen out of the juice, and also we're going to help to pop the air bubbles when we let the vacuum back in. So let's go ahead and start this up and show you guys what it looks like. Alright, so you guys can see that this pump basically achieved 20 on the dial here, and it continues to turn off and turn on to keep us at 20. What happened was we significantly increased the amount of foam in the juice because we're literally pulling the dissolved oxygen out of the juice, which then creates a big foam layer. If you were here to look at it like I am on the top, you could just see bubbles basically coming to the top and bursting, and then that's when they basically turn back into juice because we're now off-gassing or off-airing the juice. We're going to go ahead and stop the pump, and I want you guys to look very carefully at what happens to the juice when we let the vacuum back in. As you guys can see, a lot of that foam layer now dissipated, so we have a lot less foam in the juice. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get a real test of how much yield we made by putting the juice through a sieve to collect any kind of pulp that was put in the juice. And now we have this juice mostly de-aired. You know, there's still a little bit of air in there, but we have a lot less than we originally did. And more importantly, you know, when you de-aerate your juice like we did today, it's going to store a lot longer because the air bubbles in the juice are not going to be there to affect and degrade the oxygen-sensitive nutrients. And it'll also slow down the enzymatic activity from things like polyphenol oxidase. All right, so it looks like we're going to go ahead and let this drain out. And next up, let's go ahead and do the same thing to the Nama J2 juice. Once again, if we just sift this around, you guys can see a lot of those air bubbles just turn back into juice. So don't be alarmed when you have a lot of air bubbles on top. If you just sift it around just like this, you could dissolve a lot, but I want to even dissolve more. So we're just going to go ahead and use my Blendtec vacuum container to make it happen. All right, so we got all the juice out of the container here. So let's go ahead and once again de-air our juice made in the Nama J2 using the void vacuum lid. And we're going to go ahead and let this pump down. As you guys can see, we got this pumped down, and it's interesting on these bubbles, there's like big bubble type bubbles, like if you were blowing bubbles with soap. It's interesting that the J2 had bubbles this much. I don't really exactly know why. I could maybe surmise that there's more air inserted into this juice than the other one. Not really sure, but let's go ahead and release the vacuum and show you guys what happens. As you guys can see, all those bubbles instantly pop, and now we turned literally right back into juice. And that's why I prefer vacuum de-aeration, right? This will ensure you have the freshest juice, the least air, least polyphenol oxidase to break down those oxygen-sensitive phytonutrients. And this is information, literally, guys, you will not see anywhere else. Anyways, let's go ahead and now pour this nice clean juice through the exact same sieve and see how much pulp we catch. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and shake down both sieves to make sure we get all the juice out. Now I want to show you guys actually what was sieved out, so you guys can see on the Nama J2 a nice homogeneous pulp blob. And on the Kuvings Auto10, there's a pulp blob, but it's, you know, still kind of bubbly. So what I want to do is we're going to go ahead and weigh out to see how much pulp was put into the juice when juicing these exact same items in both machines. Let's go ahead and tear out our scale there. We're reading at 000. First, let's go ahead and weigh out the Kuvings Auto10 pulp. So we have approximately 10.5 grams of fine pulp that didn't go through the sieve. It is a little watery, so I would recommend actually eating this pulp because there's still lots of nutrition in there. Let's go ahead and tear out this scale again. And now let's go ahead and weigh the Nama J2 pulp. So once again, 10.5 on the Nama J2 pulp. 15.8. Wow, this is actually quite interesting. So in this case, the Nama J2 put more pulp into the juice than the Kuvings Auto10. And I think most of my tests that I've done, the Kuvings Auto10 will put a little bit more pulp in the juice. But you know what? These machines are so close. It's hard to just say this one's better because of this one instance. You should watch all my other comparison videos so you get a better guideline of, you know, what's the juicer's strengths and what's the juicer's weaknesses, because each one of these machines, of course, have their own sets of pros and cons. Next up, let's go ahead and compare the after sieved and de-aerated yields to get the real result. All right, so here is the end result over on the Kuvings Auto10. You guys can see we're just a little bit below 300 milliliters of juice. And if we go over to the Nama J2, you guys can see the 300 mark is actually kind of hidden there. You can see it maybe if you look really closely because we did achieve 300 milliliters of juice. So that's quite interesting. After removing the foam and the extra pulp, you could actually see that the NAMA J2 did make actually a little bit more juice than the Kuvings Auto10. So you guys just learned that the NAMA J2 made a smidge more juice than the Kuvings Auto10. I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 milliliters more juice. Now the other thing I want to show you guys is actually the pulp here, what was generated by each machine. You know, these pulps are actually pretty dry. You know, if you just smush on it a little bit, it's dry. If we squeeze it against my fingers, I mean, it's hard for me to even get a few drops out. So that's quite efficient on the Kuvings Auto10. The Kuvings Auto10 actually did put more pulp in. So I surmise that there's a lot of pulp residue left in the machine in the J2 that did not go out. And, you know, I'd say this juice, you know, actually on the pulp, it seems a little bit wetter than the Kuvings Auto10. But yet in our yield test, clearly the J2 made a little bit more yield. So that's actually quite interesting. Now, next up, I want to go ahead and taste test these juices. You know, to be honest with you, I don't necessarily recommend that you guys make straight green juices like this. I mean, a whole pound of greens maybe costs like $5, $6, depending on where you buy them from. And in this case, we made approximately 300 milliliters or approximately, I don't know, 11 ounces of juice. You know, you're going to do far better for yourself if you juice the greens with carrots or with root vegetables like jicama, or at least with celery or cucumber. That'll help extract more nutrition out of the greens and, of course, not make it as foamy. So next up, let's go ahead and try a little bit of the Kuvings Auto10 juice. This is pure green juice, guys. Concentrated nutrition in a glass. I can appreciate that. Most of you guys probably wouldn't like that. A little bit strong. It's kind of like tasting like wheatgrass juice. All right. I mean, just tastes like a green juice to me. Next up, the NAMA J2 juice. It's been a long time since I've had straight green juice because you just dilute it. I mean, honestly, guys, I can't discern a difference between these two juices. They taste very similar. They're not bitter. They're definitely strong. Most of you guys may not like the flavor. I kind of like it. That's pretty much the test today. You know, I guess in the summary, as I showed in different parts of this video, each one of these machines have their own sets of pros and cons, right? What is the criteria that is most important to you? If the price is the most important, you just want the cheapest one that works, then you might want to get the NAMA J2 and maybe don't even get the 3-liter hopper, because a 2-liter hopper, based on my testing, actually works better on greens than the 3-liter hopper because it is just a tube instead of this flared shape that has issues with things dropping in. So if you guys don't like dealing with hassles and all this kind of stuff, I would say get the Kuvings Auto10 because it just has a tube that's straight down, so there's a straight gravity shot for all the leafy greens to juice in the Auto10. I guess the next thing I will say is that if you want to save time, then the Kuvings Auto10 juice these leaves a little bit quicker than the NAMA J2. That being said, in other tests I've done, I believe the NAMA J2 usually juices a little bit quicker than the Kuvings Auto10. You know, so it really depends on what you're going to be juicing a lot. And of course, if you're just going to do straight greens like this, I don't even recommend either of these machines. I would recommend a horizontal auger juicer like the Santa 727. If you don't want to spend all the big bucks for the Santa 727, go for the Santa 707, their entry-level model. Now, yield is the most important to you. Then I'd say go with the NAMA J2. The NAMA J2 made a little bit more yield than the Kuvings Auto10. You know, if I had to say quality, which quality juice is better, you know, I gotta say in this video, I'm gonna say that the Kuvings Auto10 quality of the juice was better because what happened was that there was less foam put into the juice, so that means there's less oxidative damage being done to the juice as it is being made. You know, and if I look at these juices right now, side by side, this juice is a lot more bright and green, and this juice is a little bit more, not quite as green, like off color. Like, to me, that's a sign of oxidation. My personal opinion, I have no studies to back that up. So I would say the Kuvings Auto10 in this instance made a little bit higher quality juice, although both these machines are fairly evenly matched. So yeah, that was quite interesting. And of course, the Kuvings Auto10 also put less pulp in this specific recipe today. So if you want less pulp in your juice, then the Kuvings Auto10 is the winner for you. So in the end of this episode, I always declare a winner. Which one am I going to declare a winner? Oh man, that's so tough. I mean, while the Nama J2 did make more, it did also take more time. And it didn't work quite as efficiently due to the shape of the hopper. Whereas the Kuvings Auto10 made a little less yield, was less hassle with this specific recipe. So in the end, if I have to declare a winner, I mean, this is a really tight race. I'd almost call it a tie, but I will declare a winner because in my eyes, one machine did perform a little bit better than the other. And although the Nama J2 made a tad bit more yield, you know, my money for this test is actually on the Kuvings Auto10. Why? Number one, it put less air in the juice. I believe it to make a little bit higher quality juice. It also put less pulp in the juice. More importantly, it, you know, kicked out more pulp in the pulp bin, whereas the Nama J2 did not kick out as much. Now, when that happens, we can't just weigh the pulp to see how much pulp was, how wet the pulp is, because there's a lot of pulp left in the machine. And when I take the Nama J2 apart, I'm fully expecting to see this whole bottom pieces full of pulp, which means a bit more difficult cleaning than the Kuvings Auto10. Of course, the Kuvings Auto10 took 2 to 3 minutes less time than processing the same exact ingredients in the Nama J2. I did recommend to Nama when I did see this original design of the hopper that it needs to be improved and improve the processing blade or something. But you know, after seeing the results now, I really like the more cone shape that allows things to drop in easier, because especially when juicing things like leafy greens, that's where this style 3-liter hopper falls short. It should just be a straight run, in my opinion, or if maybe they redesign the processing blade to be more efficient, it could be even better. So I really hope you guys learned a little bit in this episode, not only if these machines can juice straight power greens, which they both did, how long it took, how much yield it made, how much pulp was put in the juice, how much air was put in the juice, how to de-aerate your juice. So many things I covered. And if you guys appreciate all the detailed work that I put into my videos and are going to purchase one of these two fine machines, be sure to use my coupon code DJ10 at KuvingsUSA.com to save 10% off on the Kuvings Auto10. Or you guys can use the coupon code BABY10 at NamaWell.com so you guys can save 10% off on the Nama J2 and any of the accessories that you would like to buy. When you guys use those coupon codes, not only will you guys get the lowest price, but also, more importantly, Nama or Kuvings will share a small commission with me so I can continue to make these educational videos for you guys, buy the produce that I juice in these episodes, pay my utility bills so I can power my lights, you know, pay my video editor to do an amazing job at editing my videos and getting these videos out to you to tell you guys the truth about juicers and comparing them side by side using the identical amounts of produce. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, want more videos comparing the Auto10 and the Nama J2, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Also, more importantly, share this with other people that are considering buying the Nama J2 or the Kuvings Auto10 so that they can learn the truth about how these juicers perform when juicing straight leafy greens. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on new and upcoming episodes I come in 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel or what new juicers or other appliances that will allow you to process more fruits and vegetables and other plant foods the best ways possible. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are wealth of knowledge. Over 800 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teaching you guys all about the different juicers, demonstrating and dropping my juicer knowledge bombs on you. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.